glories to Srila Prabhupada. We will begin today, continue reading from Canto 3, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 30, Description of Adverse Fruitive Activities. We'll read texts 9 and 10. Before that, we'll seek blessings of our Acharya Parampara. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadhanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We'll recite the invocation prayers for Srimad Bhagavatam also. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet Shushrusho Shraddadhanasya Vasudeva Kadharuchi Syanmahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatithani Shevanat Shinvatam Swakadha Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridayantastohya Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhrutsatam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Tadharajastamo bhava kamalobhadayasyaye chetayet anavidham stitam sattve prasidati evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate bhidyate hridaya grandhis chidyante sarva samshaya kshiyante chasya karmani drishta evatmanishvare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. We'll continue. This chapter 30, description of adverse fruitive activities, comes after descriptions of Kapila Deva to Mother Devahuti about the devotional service. It's actually interesting how Kapil Deva presents. He actually talks about the glories and how to execute and what are the result. And then on the contrary, what happens if one is attached and how one gets attached to the family life and material sense gratification and everything else that is contrary to the devotional service. That's what this whole chapter is about, and we will start from text 9. Griheshu kuta dharmeshu dukkha tantreshvatandrita kurvan dukkha pratikaram sukhavan manyate grihi. One more time. Griheshu kuta dharmeshu dukkha tantreshvatandritaha kurvan dukkha pratikaram sukhavan manyate grihi. Griheshu, in family life, Kuta dharmeshu, involving the practice of falsehood, dukkha tantreshu, spreading miseries, atandritaha, attentive, kurvan, doing, dukkha pratikaram, counteraction of miseries, sukhavat, as happiness, manyate, things, grihi, the householder. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The attached householder remains in his family life, which is full of diplomacy and politics, always spreading miseries and controlled by acts of sense gratification. He acts just to counteract the reactions of all his miseries. And if he can successfully counteract such miseries, he thinks that he's happy. Sounds so funny, but I was thinking as I was just reading, um, it so depicts the life of me and probably so many of us. But put in Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead himself certifies the material world as an impermanent place that is full of miseries. There is no question of happiness in this material world, either individually or in terms of family, society, or country. If something is going on in the name of happiness, that is also illusion. Here, in this material world, happiness means successful counteraction to the effects of distress. It's so interesting, this statement. The material world is so made that unless one becomes a clever diplomat, his life will be a failure. Not to speak of human society, even the society of lower animals, the birds and bees, cleverly manages its bodily demands of eating, sleeping, and mating. Human society competes nationally and or individually, and in the attempt to be successful, the entire human society becomes full of diplomacy. We should always remember that in spite of all diplomacy and all intelligence in the struggle for our existence, everything will end in a second by the supreme will. Therefore, all our attempts to become happy in this material world are simply a delusion offered by Maya. This is very interesting. Doesn't really need much explanation. As I was reading the purport last night, it just so depicts the condition that we are so entrapped. I mean, doesn't necessarily mean America, India, or wherever we are. We're just so driven by this so called being successful, even if you're not so much after being the top. I mean, at least after starting to practice Krishna consciousness, we may think, okay, what am I to do with all these accolades and, you know, the superficial designations and promotions and this and that. So we may not actively um, hanker or endeavor for those kind of success or perfection. But the thing is, when we are in this society, we have to live. And in order to live, we need to have a basic living. And like if you see the job market or colleges, like there is so much of competition. And in that competition, even if our desire is not so much to, become the topper or most successful, we are still uh, in a way forced or propelled to actually go about this path of uh, working so hard. And this is very interesting statement that Prabhupada is writing. Here in this material world, happiness means successful counteraction to the effects of distress. So the distress and effects are constant, and we are constantly trying to mitigate that distress. Like, how can I, do this or do that and do something else just to counteract and just to continue the status quo. And if that is the case, it's like great. I mean, we say no news is good news. So if no distress, that means, oh, yeah, yeah, everything under control. I'm happy. Yeah, everything is going great. That's all we considered as a happiness. And it's amazing how Kapila Deva is describing here what is the point of life. And as we're talking, it comes after chapter 29, which is so beautifully describing the glories of devotional service and what that connection to the Supreme can bring. Even in this condition of miseries, I'm sure we would have experienced those glimpses when we can somehow or other be able to uh, experience like really a strong feeling of shelter in Krishna. Krishna is always providing us a shelter and the security and safety that we are always hankering. But because I am not fully confident of Krishna's shelter, so I would be going, oh, maybe I need to have money. Maybe I need to have this house. Maybe I need to have that or this. Just so, I'll have those insurance policies just in case Krishna doesn't answer my prayers for what I'm asking for. But there may be moments where we actually felt that very strong connection and shelter of Krishna. And in those moments, we can feel how much ever agitation is going around us, we can feel completely peaceful and satisfied in that moment and in that connection with Krishna. Someone was sharing with me, I think from the book Chasing the Rhinos, Shamsundar Prabhu explains, being with Prabhupada is like at the center of the tornado. Like when the tornado is happening, all around it's like so chaotic and like everything is like, just so crazy, like the wind and the rain and this and that. But the eye of the tornado is like completely peaceful, like as if nothing is happening. If we close our eyes, we may not even know. I mean, without, unless the sound is there. Okay, let's say we have a noise canceling headphones, so we can hear outside and close the eyes. You won't even feel a thing. That's something outside. So much of a, chaotic scene is out there in that sense, like in that way, uh, Prabhu explains being with Prabhupada is like that. He is in the middle of so many things, so much is happening, but he is like completely fixed, totally with Krishna and in that space of completely sheltered. So that is the real happiness. And unfortunately, here we are constantly going after the miseries and counteracting them and thinking we are happy. And I need to do this, I need to do that in order to become successful. I need to have more money, I need to have more success. Then my life is, I can continue and I can be happy. But unfortunately, that never stops, that hankering. Uh, and one more thing I was thinking, this connection with the miseries, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, when we are attached to the sense gratification or sense objects, that itself is a source of misery. Sometimes we can see, like, I don't know, like an example. Um, yeah, if you want more money, that comes with more responsibility at work, bigger position and bigger responsibility, of course, bigger bonus or money or salary or whatever it is. But in order to gain that, we have to sacrifice so much because of that attachment that I want more salary or more position or power. We have to put so much of that time and energy that we are actually sacrificing our physical and mental and so much of that abilities. It actually comes because of that. It's not like, oh, I just want this, I get it. In the material world, it's always we are sacrificing something in order to gain something. So if we don't have that attachment, then we can still work just because it's our duty, but we don't have to go to that extent that it causes us so much stress. That's the difference, because Prabhupada explains in second chapter Bhagavad Gita purports, outside looking, the devotee and the non-devotees seem to be the same, like working, like, non-devotees are karmis. But the difference is the attachment to the result, and then according to that, the stress or the misery one experiences. Here, the devotee, I mean, I'm talking about the devotee who is completely fixed and have complete faith in Krishna. They know everything is dependent on Krishna. Because it's my duty, I'll put the effort, but the result is up to Krishna. Whatever he grants, and he knows what's best for me. When that is there, it's not being callous or being irresponsible, but it's actually uh, with much more, not just detachment, but I would say wisdom. We are working and handling this material world. So that's the much better alternative to this, what is being explained in this verse. We'll move on to text 10. अर्थैरापादितैर्गुर्व्या हिंसयेतस्ततश्चतान् पुष्णाति येषां पोषेण शेषभोग्याति अधः स्वयम्. He secures money by committing violence here and there, and although he employs it in the service of his family, he himself eats only a little portion of the food thus purchased, and he goes to hell for those for whom he earned the money in such an irregular way. Purport. There is a Bengali proverb: the person for whom I have stolen accuses me of being a thief. The family members for whom an attached person acts in so many criminal ways are never satisfied. In illusion, an attached person serves such family members, and by serving them, he is destined to enter into a hellish condition of life. For example, a thief steals something to maintain his family, and he is caught and imprisoned. So the thief is caught and imprisoned, but not the family members, because they say, oh, we don't have anything to do with it. This is the sum and substance of material existence and attachment to material society, friendship, and love. Although an attached family man is always engaged in getting money by hook or crook for the maintenance of his family, he cannot enjoy more than what he could consume, even without such criminal activities. A man who eats 8 ounces of foodstuffs may have to maintain a big family and earn money by any means to support that family. But he himself is not offered more than what he can eat, and sometimes he eats the remnants that are left after his family members are fed. Even by earning money by unfair means, he cannot enjoy life for himself. That is called covering, that is called the covering illusion of Maya. This is very interesting. We work so hard. I was talking to my colleague the other day, and we were talking about the house. She was sharing how she's always in the yard and she does this and she does that. I said, yeah, we have a beautiful deck, but I just don't get to spend time on that. She's like, what are you doing? Why don't you go and, do this or do that or whatever? Uh, but it's like, we have these big, huge houses, but in order to cover the mortgage, you have to work full day for all the days. So you just don't have time and space to just sit there and enjoy and like whatever. So it's always that, just goes in that, in the when we are young, we have so much of energy and we have so much of time, but we don't have money to enjoy. And when we are in the adult stage, we have money because we are working. We have energy because we are still comparatively younger, but we just don't have time. So it's constant running, running, running. And then when we are old, we have time if we have worked enough and saved enough. We have, we have time, obviously, if you're retired, and we have money if you have saved enough. But unfortunately, all the physical energy is sapped by the time we are retired. And then, that's how the human life, unfortunate situation of human life will be like, oh, when I retire, I would do this, I would do that, and I would enjoy like this or like that. But unfortunately, that never happens. So Prabhupada is writing here, even if someone has so much money and so much of this thing, like we can see all these politicians and these big, big people, they may have so many bungalows and cars and this and that, but their life is constantly so busy. And sometimes these politicians, they're threatened and they're constantly like, on their toes. Oh, how can I protect myself? How can I protect my wealth and this or that? They're in that constant anxiety. So there is no real enjoyment in one sense. And the other aspect is attachment to the family may propel one to go out of their way to earn. I mean, it may not so much applicable for someone who is practicing devotional service that they earn by unethical or criminal activities or that kind of illegal means. But nevertheless, that attachment and the time and energy, like in India, it's very common. Parents leave for their children and they're like, I have done all this hard work for you. You're not studying or you're not doing this, you're not doing that. They're like, who asked you to do that? I never asked you. You did for your own pleasure. They say to prove yourself in your friend circle or to prove that, you have your kids in better college or you have better homes. You're just trying to prove your own worth or whatever. It's nothing to do with me. That's what the child says. And it's true. We are actually trying to fill our own lack of self-worth through all that means. And if we really see how much we need to eat and how much the family eats, we don't have to work like, crazy like this. The process of illusory service to society, country, and community is exactly the same everywhere. The same principle is applicable even to big national leaders. A national leader who is very great in serving his country is sometimes killed by his countrymen because of irregular service. In other words, one cannot satisfy his dependents by this illusory service, although one cannot get out of the service because servant is his constitutional position. A living entity is constitutionally part and parcel of the Supreme Being, but he forgets that he has to render service to the Supreme Being and diverts his attention to serving others. This is called Maya. By serving others, he falsely thinks that he is master. The head of a family thinks of himself as a master of the family, or the leader of a nation thinks of himself as a master of the nation, whereas actually he is serving. And by serving Maya, he is gradually going to hell. Therefore, a sane man should come to the point of Krishna consciousness and engage in the service of the Supreme Lord, applying his whole life, all of his wealth, his entire intelligence, and his full power of speaking. Prabhupada is concluding with a very powerful statement here. And this is something I started to appreciate Prabhupada a lot. Initially, in the beginning, when I was reading Bhagavad Gita, I used to think Bhagavad Gita as it is, and the sixth chapter is talking about dhyana yoga or whatever stuff. But Prabhupada is talking about Bhakti Yoga. Where is Bhakti Yoga in this verse? And it is not as it is. Prabhupada is not presenting as it is, I used to think. But what I realized, Prabhupada is presenting Krishna's intention, the real purpose of Bhagavad Gita, or for that matter, Srimad Bhagavatam, as it is. We hear this like you read any verse, any purport, like just one page, and you can actually get the full essence of this scripture. That is how Prabhupada presented these books. We were reading in sixth canto, Ajamila's story, and the verse actually talks about Ajamila saw this prostitute and he fell down and doing all kinds of abominable activities. Nothing is mentioned about devotional service or anything, holy name. And Prabhupada writes, uh, Ajamila fell down because of this association, even though he's such a great, devotee and he was following all the regulations and nicely practicing devotional service. But all the devotional service is not waste. And the power of holy name is so nice that in whatever condition you are, you can immediately be uplifted. Even if you have to chant with offenses, holy name is so powerful that it can burn away all your sinful reactions and it can lead you to the supreme destination. I was like, oh my goodness. So, it's just so spellbound with that compassion of Prabhupada and with that urgency, how he is giving this message. It doesn't matter what the verse is talking about. Of course, he's not completely, changing the meaning or the message of the verse, but he is not depriving the audience just because they're not able to connect to the whole book. He's not depriving them of the whole message or the real purpose of this book. So here, even though Kapil Dev is describing how this person being attached and gaining money and doing all kinds of criminal activities is gradually laying their path to the hell, but here Prabhupada is actually giving why someone does that and how they can come out of it. Because of that, being the servant, that's the constitutional position. So we cannot stay not being in service to others. So that is given. But when we don't understand uh, how that service need to be dovetailed, we will be going in exactly opposite direction to our real nature. And that actually is the cause for all of this entanglement and all these sinful reactions and attachment to doing all these kind of activities. But if we just flip that, of course, that flip doesn't happen just like that. It needs, first of all, that faith and conviction in the process. And then hearing, from that hearing develops the faith and conviction. Once we have faith and conviction, then the action follows. You know what? I have been doing this. I was thinking yesterday, like you just spend so much time, and then, I mean, not in a negative sense, but the family members or at the temple, you do so many services and you do little thing here and there. They're like, oh, something wrong happened. That's it. So the people around, it's extremely hard to, satisfy them fully. But when we focus our attention on satisfying Krishna and then do the service, even if something comes from those people, we won't be completely, become so dejected and like uh, thinking as a failure. Because when we pose everything on this people around us and their satisfaction, the moment we hear from them that they're not satisfied or they're not happy, or, yeah, you did all this, but this thing you did not do properly or something, it just breaks our heart. But when we do with that detachment and focus actually is on Krishna, then we are not really dependent on their validation or recognition or appreciation. Then, yeah, if they say, oh, thank you so much, Amar, thank you so much for doing this, Mataji or Prabhuji. Yeah, yeah, sure, thank you. I'm happy I was able to help, or I'm grateful. If they say, oh, but this should have been done, that should have been done, okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't think of all that. Yeah, next time I'll try to be better. So the whole consciousness changes, and that consciousness shift can actually uh, helps us. It actually helps us to become so much better where we are doing at what we are doing. So that's the shift Prabhupada is bringing here. So that being a servant is given. We just cannot. escape from that. Even if we think we are the master, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, it's actually being in service, whether we are CEO of a company or whether we are a head of a family or whatever. Like I'm the head of this service at the temple. We are actually serving. In that serving, where should we repose our focus and attention? So that's really important. And Prabhupada is giving this powerful statement how one should engage in the service of the Supreme Lord, applying his whole life, all of his wealth, and his entire intelligence and his full power of speaking. When we can live in this way, it's not that we are just neglecting our duties and not working or not caring for the family members. That's not the point. But it's just the shift of consciousness, which can even help those family members become freed. If you're constantly on them, like, child, like, I'm working so hard for you, you should study like this, you should study like that. They're like, constantly feeling that pressure. But when we are in the detached mode and actually give them the freedom to choose and do what they want, even if they don't do what we want, it's actually so much more healthy for the other person. Even if you're cultivating some newer devotees, that's the mindset we need to adopt, giving them that freedom and the choice, even if not the right choice. When they are able to make that within the healthy boundaries, it actually, helps them to have that healthy growth. So that is what the focus on Krishna can give us. So, in essence, this text 9 and 10, in one sense, as I'm sharing, these don't really need any explanation. I'm sharing all this just so I'm actually talking to myself. Even though we may say we are devotees and we don't follow these illegal means to earn money or don't have so much attachment to family life, which may not be the case, but still those tendencies are there, the kind of working and the kind of things are there. So that's the reason I'm just trying to discuss and share to myself to become more clear what is the purpose of this life. We'll read just the translations one more time and then conclude. Text 9, the attached householder remains in his family life, which is full of diplomacy and politics, always spreading miseries and controlled by acts of sense gratification. He acts just to counteract the reactions of all his miseries. And if he can successfully counteract such miseries, he thinks that he is happy. His Holiness Rumpa Swami Maharaj says, if someone is put into the water and then just for a moment he is brought out, he is not able to breathe or anything, just you pull him out, and just for that moment, he thinks, oh, this is Brahma Sukha. And then he goes back in. Like, I think that's like a punishment. I forgot where, in China or somewhere else. Like, that used to be the punishment for people who commit criminal activities. So that moment of relief from the misery, actually, people are considering as a happiness, but that's not the real happiness. In text 10, he secures money by committing violence here and there, and although he employs it in the service of his family, he himself eats only a little portion of the food that's purchased, and he goes to hell for those for whom he earned the money in such an irregular way. So we will conclude here, and please share any of your reflections and thoughts. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Amrita-keli Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances to Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to you.
Hare Krishna. And this, I joined late. I was in the temple only. But I mean, this is like these verses is reminding who is Ratnakar. It's the same story.
Mm.
But in really, if we have college graduates going in for that highly paid job and this powerful job, this, that, everything. And we hear so many people at the topmost places in these businesses and everything. Sometimes they end up in the jail.
Mm.
Yeah. And if we actually, it should be put in front of the new graduates, I feel, class.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, the people who have no, I mean, they are so horse-sighted. Huh? They think that to be on top is everything.
Yeah.
That much competition. I mean, young generation should be given lessons about what is right and how much you should kill yourself for these things. But in USA, and what to speak of India, eh, Indian this one gangs operate so many money swindling rackets in USA. eh? They're tracing back to India roots.
Yeah.
What to speak about. I mean, Hare Krishna, all this is spoken by Kapila back in that time, in Satyuga, right?
Mm.
Hare Krishna. Human tendency is in, and how blinded people become towards because of their family attachments. Imagine, this is the center of it is the family attachment. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
All his purports in Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Amrita-keli Mataji ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mathaji. Yeah, that's very powerful point. Like I often think about like how is that these people do this? Like, don't they really think about it? Like, where did the conscience go? But because of that blinding attachment, as we hear about Dhritarashtra, right? Like he is just so blinded, like nothing. Like he cannot think of anything else. What's happening? Yeah, that blinding attachment can unfortunately cover, even if the person is, I forgot his name. What was recently, very young person became like a super success. Oh, wait, why did I forget his name? He was in jail, right, for fraud. Like such a smart person from Stanford. I'm just not recollecting the name. Nevertheless, yeah, so many of these young and extremely smart people in the name of uh, becoming this top person committing this fraud, and he's not even recognizing that it's actually fraud. That's really so unfortunate. And as you're saying, I'm thinking that value system, it needs to be so strong when the children are growing up in the education, unfortunately outside they're not taught so much. So I think as parents, it's a great responsibility. At least if we understand, we need to give that kind of character and value system to the kids. Yeah.
Exactly. It is so important. The young generation, they should be, they need guidance. I'm
Yeah.
so happy for the preachers who spend time in corporate America,
Yeah.
and workplaces and universities and everything, really. I mean, otherwise Maya is so blinding.
Mhm.
Hare Krishna, people end up in so many miserable situations, even in on this earth. What about
Yeah.
param, param, afterwards, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna,
Mata.
Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada,
Please accept my
all
invitation.
glories to the devotees who are online and others also. Just want to bring to notice that one of our great Vaishnavis in our ISKCON Naperville is born today.
Who?
And her, one of our great Vaishnavis who reads Bhagavatam every day in front of lordships. She is
Oh,
born today.
Haribo, happy
Hare
birthday, Sandhya
Krishna.
Mataji.
Devi Prabhu, you pulled the, you
Oh, when you said
pulled the
you
rug
born
under my
today,
feet.
I
You
thought it's
pulled
a
the rug.
newborn.
Hare Krishna. You
I
pulled
did
the
not
rug
say,
under my feet.
Mataji. I don't know why Sandhya Mataji is talking about something. I'm talking about, Vaishnavi and whenever will. I did not name anybody.
Hare Krishna. I know, I know. Who is that? Hare Krishna to her. Hare Krishna.
Many, many prayers and lots of wishes for you, Mataji. And please pray for us and
Hare
keep
Krishna.
inspiring us and guiding us
No,
as
you
we
all
are
pray for
going.
me, okay? With
Yes.
this very fallen soul. Huh? Hare
So
Krishna.
the point you are bringing, Mataji, about this material world, and nobody is appreciating the what we do in our daily activities. Only Krishna can appreciate even a little bit. Somebody brings a roll, bathroom roll, tissue roll for the temple. Prabhupada appreciates that means Krishna is satisfied.
Mm.
A little bit. That's what we know when in the Fifth Avenue. What when
Yeah.
somebody came, Prabhupada was very happy. Thank you very much, he said. So even just a roll and you bring and serve Krishna, Krishna is, spiritual master is happy. That means Krishna is happy. How much ever you do serve, you dedicate your 8, 10 hours, 15 hours in our workplace, no one gets satisfied. They'll say, give me more, give me more, give me. It's like
Yeah.
tomorrow, Govardhan Puja, Ani or like that. Give me more, give me more, give me more. And then end of the day, nobody is happy. So
Mm.
I was thinking about this competitive world and how the competition has become very strong, especially the Bharatvarsh of India, 1.5 billion people, and somebody has to survive. And so that's why they're pulling each other and going up and says, I am better than you.
Yeah.
That is the problem. But I was thinking, I'm reflecting on even in the spiritual path, that competition is there high, also there, from the left wing and the right wing and whatever wing. So people are still serving Krishna in a competitive spirit, but that gives a pleasure for the living entities and pleasure for Krishna. That spiritual competition is really great. And because of the competition, and everybody is thinking and looking how to please please Krishna better than others. Let
Yeah.
me let me please Krishna better than others. In that way, there is no limit. Sky is the limit, and only
Mm.
Radharani can please out of billion trillion souls. Only Radharani up is up there. So in that way, that this competition is always there. That means that's our replica. We are in the material world, and that is the replica showing up that I am better than you. That's in the different material, that spirit. But it's a perverted reflection which is coming from Krishna's, spiritual planet. That competition is too high, and only problem is we misunderstood that competition. The only thing is we need to see how we can serve Krishna better than before. Even me, if I do some service better than before, even myself, 10 years ago and today, oh my God, I improved. I have to do much better than Krishna. So that's why I was hearing a little bit of Prabhupada's lecture this morning, and he was telling, he concluded, it was almost 45 minutes, 60 minutes lecture, and he concluded everything is in the holy name. And
Mm.
yesterday, Amrendra Prabhu was telling, I was joking also. Krishna was did a lot of pastimes in Vrindavan and Gokula. And Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, and all the gopis, they were praying, pray and chanting the holy names to protect Krishna. So that means, who can protect Krishna? Holy name of Krishna can protect Krishna, right? So
Yeah.
Krishna doesn't know that even his name, his own name can. protect Krishna. That was a feeling that Amrendra Prabhu was describing, and he was happy. So in that way, in this age of Kali, deities are there. Of course, there are so many things going on, but the real protector, real shelter is only the holy name. Nama Chantamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, right? That verse, if you look at it, it's all coming from the spiritual world. Golo Kera Premadana Harinam Sankirtan. So that ends up here, but basically the essence is there. 95 to 99% growth of our spiritual depends on the chanting, but we do all 90% of other activities we do, but only we 5% of chanting we do. So that's our problem. So but when we all focus on the chanting more, that is our progress in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for bringing those real life lessons. Yeah. For this competition, I was thinking, Maharaj keeps telling, right, who is at the center? In this competition here, as I'm trying to be better than you, I'm at the center. I want to prove I'm better than you. I can dress the deities better. I can recite the verses better. I can sing better. I can cook better than that person. How can I cook so nicely for Krishna? How can I sing so nicely for Krishna? How can I dress them so beautifully that whoever sees, they're just spellbound and just attracted just to look at them? Instead of thinking, oh, today who did the dressing? Oh, that devotee does great dressing. That's the material way of looking. But as you brought up this spiritual competition, I don't know. I mean, it's just so amazing to think. The outside workings may be the same, but it's just so beautifully centered on Krishna. So that, all the material enmities or those things are not there. They're still competing with each other. They're still like, oh, this one is that, whatever. But it's for Krishna. That's very beautiful and seems so high, but it's very beautiful and, definitely something to aspire for. Thank you for bringing that. And the holy name too. Yeah. Okay, it's 8:25. Thank you so much for joining and sharing your thoughts. We can pause here.
Okay, miss.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. You all have a wonderful day. Happy birthday to you, Sandhya Mataji, once again. Thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Grandhraj
Thank you.
Srimad
Thank you, dear.
Bhagavatam ki jai.
Eh,
Shri
Srila
Prabhupada
Prabhupada
ki
ki jai.
Sandhya Mataji ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare